I could let that intro go on for ages because I quite like the music.
Got stuck in the lift.
Good evening, everybody. How is everybody tonight? I'm going to talk about creating wealth. This is what this is all about. It's called the Wealth Creation Show. You can see it up there. James, what's been happening this week in the news?
Oh, this week. So a friend, maybe not friend, Donald Trump's just had permission to build 550 houses just off the Many estate.
Wow.
His golf expansion.
What do you think the implications of that are then?
Well, I'm quite sure he's going to cause a lot of uproar and anger with locals. That's his way, you know.
Yeah, but why on earth would somebody want to get planning permission? I suppose if he gets planning permission to build, fair enough. But then he's gonna be in the situation where it's Aberdeen. Is there going to be a fundamental difference between the golf course Aberdeen and his Aberdeen and Aberdeen itself?
I've no idea. I mean, I thought so. It depends on what model he's planning to use, though, because not only will he be trying to attract golfers, and I don't know how many golfers will get on his courses at any one time.
Yeah.
But he'll be looking towards a sort of short-term lets.
Yeah.
In terms of Airbnb type style.
Okay, that makes sense. He'll have to apply for planning permission.
Again, yeah.
That's part of the new legislation coming in for serviced accommodation.
Absolutely.
It's like just as you're over one hurdle, you've got another one to clear.
Well, effectively, it's two lots of planning permission. He needs planning permission to build in the first place, and then planning permission to make the use a short-term let.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, one of the things I've been doing today is like New Deal for tenants. Gee,
you're still awake?
I tell you what, my head's thumping, and it's like I'm at page 70 out of 108 pages, and I'm kind of losing the will to live. But it is, to be honest, I don't know how they're going to implement any of this at all, because it is just, dare I say, it's just farcical. It makes no sense at all. It is daft questions. I'll probably, if I can rake out some examples here, probably classic examples, if I could see something. It's things about, giving people a mandatory right to keep pets. It's like, so I move in and I've got a mandatory right to keep pets, and I decide to have 10 dogs in my house. And as a landlord, you can't do a damn thing about it now.
Well, this is a thing. And this is why there was talk, I mentioned last week, that there's a number of landlords looking to leave sector now, because it's getting to the point now that we're so regulated, and in some instances overly regulated, that they just think they've got no control over the property any longer. Although they own it, they take the liability, they take the they take the risk, but they have no control or say over what happens with that property. And in fact, there was a Times article on the very same thing this week in relation to Scottish landlords.
I tell you what, I'm going through it, and there was a couple of things I highlighted in the beginning. This is what really
decorating was another thing.
Yeah, to be honest, it's like, how on earth can you make decorating a mandatory thing? It's like it's no decorating, it's just to make to make any improvements you want. It's like, and you kind of think improvements. So does that mean they can knock down the wall?
So I've done a refurb, I've replastered everything. It's all right for them to come in there and just put up the wallpaper and whatever else.
And then somebody goes right at the back and says, "Oh, by the way, I've changed my mind. I'm going to move it in 28 days later."
Exactly.
Wait a minute. I've just completely redecorated, and you've completely possibly ruined it. So I definitely don't think one size fits all. I thought it was quite interesting that Patrick Harvey actually said improving affordability by introducing an effective national system of rent controls as an aim, a key aim, and it will take time to assemble the evidence we need to have set out some short-term reform too. And it's also, we review the grounds to leading to the end of a tenancy, deter landlords from undertaking illegal evictions by increasing penalties and compensation for tenants. Absolutely. I agree that we should deter landlords for illegal evictions, but do you know, when I dug into this was quite an interesting one. So it was reported that on the documents that they had actually said that 153 cases were reported in 5 years from 2013 to 2018, which resulted in and it was illegal evictions. So 153 they resulted in 5 years were illegal evictions. Okay, and of that 5 years, the 153. So effectively, that's about 35 a year. Is that right?
About that.
Yeah,
absolutely.
With 35 a year. So we'll just say 35 a year. As a result, in the court, because they were all taken to court, and as a result, in the court, only 5% were upheld. So that's 1.53 convictions or illegal evictions every year in Scotland were upheld as illegal evictions.
So
sledgehammer to crack a nut spring to mind?
Well, they're trying to solve a problem that barely exists.
Doesn't exist.
It's like the whole thing with benefit fraud. You know, the vast majority of benefit fraud isn't benefit fraud, it's stakes by DWP. But we like to band about this whole, there's £4 billion wasted in benefit fraud. It's not. It's probably 3.6 billion in key in errors or, you know, whatever DWP do.
It's all about creating this, apparently, this level playing field. And it's like, but we can't be. We're not even the same level playing field. We're not even on the same playing field at all. So I don't see. So I was going through the consultation. I was actually preparing my replies and stuff like that. Ben Radcliffe, a classic example, is Institute of Government and Public Policy. He actually stated on the 13th of January that 2.5 million landlords are in the UK itself. They believe 2.5 million. And I said, well, is that only England? Because you're an English organisation. Says, no, that's right throughout the UK. And he said, of that, we think, we reckon, we don't know, we think 10,500 of these landlords are possibly rogue landlords. Okay, Ben, that works out as 0.42% of the landlord population is rogue landlords. Sledgehammer to crack a nut.
The other thing with that is, obviously, if they've identified this as a problem, what kind of money are they going to throw at this for such a small problem?
Yeah, and who's going to pay for it?
Ultimately, us. Yeah,
we kind of know what's coming, don't we? Anyway, let's throw that away. No, I'll have to go back to it. I will have to give them a formulated response because I don't believe that is the case. That their commercial reality, and we talked about this commercial reality before, I don't believe that they understand that process and they understand what it's like, boots on the ground. Guys, if you're with us tonight, say hello. Yes, good evening, Deborah. Good evening as well. Say hello, stick a wee 5 in the comments. Tell us that you're here. Tell us the most exciting thing you've done this week or the most exciting thing you've done in your property journey so far. James caught COVID. That's probably the most exciting thing you've had.
I'm struggling a bit like Darth Vader at the minute.
Let's talk about some of the things we talked about. If you get a chance, go back on this feed itself. Watch this. We did a show about viewings, about showing your agent. Should your agent show them around the property, or should you show them around the property yourself? Now, it was primarily aimed at the sales market. But I tell you what, I give away a couple of secrets there, which I use as an investor in order to get the best value and the best price and the best offer. I made an offer on a property at the weekend via email. I've never even walked in the door, and I made it at 5,000 below the market value. And they came back and actually agreed a price with me below the home report value, and I've not even been in the door. But I rejected it because that's where my numbers work, and I'm sticking to that plan. There's plenty more fish in the sea, and that's the classic you've got to remember out there is creating wealth. It's all about you just wait for the opportunity to appear. Don't run out and be patient. I think the most important point out of creating this is be patient. That's really what it comes down to, isn't it? It's not a race. The other things will come up, other opportunities will come up. You just have to make sure you're prepared in advance for that opportunity to appear. So if you get a chance, go back, watch that. It's about episode 80 of Your Viewings. It's on YouTube as well. So if you get a chance to watch that, I'm going to share a couple of posts as well and shows that we've actually done. So this is probably the first one. I think you and I did this, James. Possibly premium lettings, how to attract high earning tenants.
Yes,
for professional tenants. Yeah, we did that show. I'm going to share that with everybody right now. That's on our YouTube channel. One of the other ones is longer lettings, how to attract and keep tenants for years. We've probably done that as well in the past. So I'm going to save that. I'm going to share that one as well, guys. If you want, just watch that, because these are real opportunities. And sold with tenants. This is your landlord checklist for buying a tenanted property in Fife. So I'm going to share that post as well for people if they want to click on that as well. So these are all posts, but they also have the link to our website, which also has the podcast on as well, and the article. So if you get an opportunity, you can read all these as well at your own leisure. But it is that stuff in terms of your knowledge, you can develop over time in order to get you in the zone. Do you understand what I mean by the zone, James?
Absolutely. I'm a bit out of the zone at the minute because it's not been so well, but go back to
the night. I tell you what, though, you've turned up the night, and that is the fundamental difference between people are successful and people are not successful. And it's the thing about, normally you would just go, I'm just going to get a miss tonight. But the reality is, it's like, I will do today what others will not to achieve tomorrow what others cannot. And I've kind of done that for the last 30 years.
Yeah, well, we brand the show on the fact that we offer this sort of free help and advice.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get to a stage where you can't be bothered showing up, then you've lost, you've automatically lost, So, yeah, I'm here. I'm not great, but we'll soldier on.
If anybody's wanting a question answered, please feel free to mention in the comments. We're going to go over something I went over. I did a real in-depth one on Thursday night with the private group. I did an in-depth dive into actually how you source properties, where the numbers are, how you feel comfortable about it. They got an opportunity, obviously, because it was on Zoom, to ask back and forward the questions about it as well. So I'm going to cover that right now, and we're going to talk about it as well, James. Incidentally,
I missed that, unfortunately.
Incidentally, just to say, I got rents this week again.
Yeah.
I think I'll just say that every single week, won't I?
Yeah, I got caught with repairs this month, so not so great time for me.
But that's effectively what happens. When you build it to a portfolio size that I've got, it's like, every single week you're getting something.
Absolutely.
But then you're obviously doing all the refurbs and everything as well at the same time. And the advantage of what I've done is what I do is I didn't like to say lower values, because lower values doesn't implies that it's not a great property. I like to say it's lower values because it gives higher returns and higher margins. So if you need to invest money in maybe a new boiler because the boiler pack's in, maybe the roof goes, maybe the electrics go, maybe it's unlikely all these will happen. But these are all things, contingency plans that you think, well, I'm actually making enough margin to accommodate for things like that, and I won't need to keep dipping into my own pocket, because if you've got several of them like that, it's kind of like, I look at it like the McDonald's principle. If you get a formula right, if you get a formula right and you know what you're doing every single time, all you're doing is taking that formula and duplicating, and it just gives you that. It just does that all the time. It just produces income all the time. So that's how I like to look at it, and the principle. I got, interestingly enough, what's your thoughts on the Ukraine carry on? Do you think that's going to have an impact on the housing market?
I don't think it's going to have a direct impact, but it's going to have an indirect impact, because obviously they're talking about Germany gets 40% of their gas from Russia at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And they're obviously bypass Ukraine. So now that they've been sanctioned, then they're going to be looking to get oil and gas from elsewhere. And that being the case, it's going to further exacerbate the drive to push up prices and stuff like that. We're already hitting £1.50 plus a litre for petrol.
Mm-hmm.
And with all these budgetary things and government policy and whatever else, it's probably going to cool the market a little. It won't strangle it, but it'll certainly cool it.
Do you think, remember, there's a restriction in supply in the housing market still. There's only about 429 properties on across Fife.
Yep.
And I'd imagine that bears resemblance right across Scotland and right across the whole of the UK, to be honest. There's still a huge restriction in supply. So do you think that will have an impact? I mean, because I'm thinking that if the value of your utilities goes up, then people with bigger houses will consider actually downsizing. Now, the people with the needing the bigger houses will then consider to upsize because they're not particularly bothered because they've maybe got 2 or 3 people in the family earning money. So I think it might just be a change. I don't, because think about it. When it comes to for example, let's look at the credit crunch as a prime example. This is classic about, investment return. So let's look at the credit crunch. Everybody went, oh my God, it's like all your properties are about to drop in value. But I've no intention of selling them and they're still earning rent. But what happens? Because it's like, but everybody is moving out of the properties because they're having to get repossessed. They're actually having to look for a property to rent because they can't buy. So the reality is they've still got to live somewhere. And that's how I ended up maintaining all my occupancy rates high as a result of that. So the occupancy rates were all high, therefore I was still earning the money. So the capital value was immaterial of what was going on because I had no intention of selling. However, I did make sure that a 20% drop would still ensure the fact that I could actually sell in what we call fire sales. You know what a fire sale is? Basically, it's like we're going to get rid of this for anything, no matter what price it is. But effectively, at that point, I think I could have still sold for 50% of the value of the property, and I still would have got out clean. So, it's all that things about hedging yourself and making sure you're actually protected against these huge swings that might happen. But the reality is it's very rare. And I always talk about everybody else is going to go to the wall before you do.
Yeah. Now there's a number of variables in there as well, of course, because we don't know how long this Ukraine thing is going to go on.
Yeah.
And the government policy changes with things like national insurance, that doesn't happen until April. So we're not really going to get a proper measure of this until June or July anyway, at the earliest. So I think pretty much for the time being, it's business as usual.
I think so as well. I think there's a golden opportunity for investors out there to actually take advantage of this. And the fact of, you know what it's like when fear kicks in, people start to run for the hills. I'm just sitting looking at the stock market thinking, at what point will I jump in and buy? That's the only thing I'm thinking. Well, it's going to go lower. I'll maybe wait for a wee while and let it go lower because I know it'll bounce back. Because if you look at a classic example, I wonder if I've got the stock market here, the FTSE 100. Let's see if we can find that. FTSE 100.
The stock market's struggling at the moment because I track that pension like a crazy person. I've got a wee charts and stuff that sort of gets pulled together off the metadata. But my pension's currently worth about 6,000 less than I've actually paid into it. So the stock market's in trouble. So
let me quickly share that then and show you where it is in relation to this. And this is actually quite interesting because then this compares to property as well when you think about the logic of this. I'll share the FTSE 100 index, and that's a good indication about how the stock market's doing. You see that all right? All right?
I do.
Okay, so we're on that, and that's the 1 day. So that shows you what it is like for 1 day. I wonder if I could get that a wee bit smaller. Yeah, okay. That's still easily seeable. So that's for 1 day, all right? And then you change it to 5 days. So obviously it dropped on the 25th, and then it recovered back up. See, it recovers quite quick. And then in a month, and then in 6 months, over 6 months, see how that's tracking all the way up there? And then year to date, and then 1 year. See how that's gone in 1 year, 6.5, right up to about 7.2 or 7.5 actually. And then 5 years. Now watch, see there's the pandemic. That's what happened. It just dropped like a stone. Incidentally, that's the when I jumped in and started buying. Because it's a golden opportunity, isn't it?
Absolutely.
And here's another classic example. Look at the max. This is when it first started back in 1984 when this index first started. Look at that at 1,096, and it is now up at there, but it's gone up 580%. But incidentally, look at it where it was. Let's look at the last 20 years where it was sitting. We'll take probably, when are we now? We're sitting at February. So let's go for February. February 2002 we're looking for it. So February 2002, it was sitting at 518. So 5182 in February 2002. Unfortunately, you can't do this like this, you know, in terms of it doesn't let you adjust custom wise. So let's look at the appreciation in the stock market since then. So we're sitting at 7485 minus 5128 equals 2776, and divide that by 5182 equals where does that come from? See, that's an interesting one. How is that 581? Because that's 5182. I'm just realizing what they're doing. What they got there, 7485 minus 1096 equals the 6389 divided by 1096 equals the 582. Yeah, okay. We'll come to that. That's where they're coming from. So the 5182. So 7458 minus 5182 equals that 2776. So 2776 divided by 5182 times 100 equals 44%. How much has property gone up over the last 20 years?
That doubles every 7 to 10 years on average.
170%.
There you go then.
43% versus 170%. And can I say to you, guess what inflation is over the last 20 years? 70%.
Google it.
It's 70%. I've got the Bank of England index. It's 70%. So inflation is 70%. You're only making 43% over that last 20 years in the FTSE if you actually just track the index. So basically, you're losing money investing in the stock market. It's classed as a high-risk strategy.
And if you look at wages over the last 20 years as well, you'll find that they're lagging behind property prices as well.
Yeah, so it makes absolute sense. You know, the biggest earner out of this is property. You know, 170%. So you're clearing at least 100% on your money over the last 20 years, and it will still continue to do that because of all the various things. So let's go into some of the numbers. So we're just going to do what we normally do in terms of looking for property.
We can do.
Yeah, let's jump on and give people a classic example. Okay. Give us a big thumbs up or a 5 in the comments if you're still with us, just to see you're out there, just to make sure. If you've got any questions, as I said, as we're going through this, please feel free to chip in and ask. More than happy to answer the questions. So we've got this here, right? And what's your favourite website then? What do you go for?
I like Rightmove.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Now, I'm not a big fan of Rightmove, and it's not because you have to pay extortionate fees to be on them.
No, so I've got plugins, Jim, that track property price movement.
And I've got that as well, actually.
It's brilliant.
But Zoopla is a better one, and Zoopla is a better one. The reason for that is because it has all the agents on it. Because a lot of agents can't afford to go on Rightmove because of the price it. So they actually stay away from that reason. Let's take Fife, for example. Let's do a quick search in Fife.
I think sometimes the valuations on Zoopla can be a bit subjective as well.
Yeah.
So for any new investor, potentially, you want to just double check your figures if you're basing it on the valuations that Zoopla gives you.
Okay. Now, let's look at this, for example. So the first thing we do, what do? We just jump on the lowest value first.
That's right, because I'm a Scotsman and I'm tight.
Yep, lowest price first, because that's all we're looking for at this point in time. Obviously, that's a featured property, so that's no list first. Yep. So we've got land at Kincardine. We've got flat at Wellesley Road, $9,000.
Now, is that not the one that is that not one of the ones that was on the council? See, had a rat problem at the back.
Yeah, see, now, you know the problem with Wellesley Road, and I hate to say it, the problem with Wellesley Road is it's not got a factor, and there's a lot of people that won't put their hand in their pocket to do it up. Let's be honest, because we were offered one to sell recently, and we went, nah, it's all right. We'll pass. Because we don't feel that, you know, at that price, I don't think it will sell. I've actually been in this property before, and I know the landlord, and this was the problems it was in the past. It was the very fact that, you know, you've got a lot of this stuff. I mean, it looks good now, but to be honest, that must be an old photograph because the scaffolding's out there.
Yeah.
The scaffolding's still there, so I don't know why that's not there any longer all of a sudden.
I mean, I remember when it was still the Swan Hotel.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, it may look good in terms of the numbers, but I'm not particularly sure if it's the greatest deal ever. Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, it sounds great, but it's actually getting a tenant for it as well could be the major issue. So, it'll be interesting to see what that sells for. So, let's look land. Keith Court.
Don't touch those.
They're not now. Why is that? Because they're non-mortgageable, aren't they?
They're non-mortgageable, and they're past their predicted shelf life. So these flats were all set up for returning servicemen at the back end of the Second World War.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to last till the 1980s. Now, some of them have been taken down already and replaced with housing, but obviously got some legacy flats there. You're probably talking about maybe a band E, roughly, for environmental impact and that sort of stuff. So, yeah, 25 grand.
Yeah,
might be reasonably cheap for a flat, but yeah, you're going to have problems.
Okay, next one, 260 Methylene Road. Don't touch that with a barge pole. That's the one I've got at the back. It's been empty for 4 years because the guy upstairs will not fix his roof and he refuses to do anything about it. So hence the reason why I wouldn't touch that with a barge pole.
No.
So that's just because everybody will have seen that just come on recently, and it's like, no, don't even consider it because there's big massive holes up here in the roof. And he just lets the water go right through to the properties below.
It's worth mentioning it's an auction property, and it's an auction property for a reason. They've obviously had issues trying to get resolution to fix issues, and it's.
Do you find that? Do you find that that's what it is because they're
quite often find that, particularly with future anyway, that a lot of these properties are coming with issues.
Mm-hmm. So I would be wary if properties came up at auction.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought that as well. See how this wee plug-in. So this wee plug-in initial entry, it comes up. Where did you get that? What was that called again?
I think my one's slightly different. I'm trying to think what it's called. Check my extensions. No, it's not Keywords Everywhere. It's another one I've got.
It's in here, Property log.
Aye, I think so. I'm not.
There, you see that? Okay, property log.
Aye.
Yeah. So that's the one. So look up property log as a Chrome extension. And that's the wee thing that actually shows this down here. If everybody can see that, I'm circling. So it tells you the price change in the history and when it changed price automatically. It's just a plugin that you get on Chrome.
So for investors out there that are looking, it's important to have a look at the dates of when it was first listed as well and get an idea of what it's tracking over time.
Mm-hmm. Cash buyers only, High Street.
Yeah.
That's an interesting statement. Cash buyers only. Wonder why that would be. That was my first thought. Click on that straight away. Looks all right. Apartment situated, comprising dining room, bedroom, bathroom, gas and heating, cash buyers only. They maybe don't want to entertain somebody because there's possibly not a mortgage, you know, like because it's under the 40 grand valuation.
Yep, absolutely.
Maybe that's why they're just saying cash buyers only. They're just wanting to put people off rather than having continual stream of people viewing.
Some specialist lenders will mortgage anything from about 40 grand plus, but anything below 40 grand, you've got no chance virtually, unless you're doing it through some sort of mere bridging type thing that you're planning to pay the finance back really, really quickly.
Mm-hmm. And there's that one at Julian Court. That's actually, in my opinion, that was kind of like that's a really good one. Julian Court, 38 grand. 1 bedroom, up Colladine, good area, decent enough. Kitchen's in the living room. So it's more a studio, but it does have a separate bedroom, and then the shower room as well. So it's actually quite good.
It looks all right for that price.
Yeah.
Again, you're going to need cash for that though, really, aren't you?
Yeah, you are. Absolutely, I would say that as well. So Julian Court's a good one. So you're at that level as well, 40 grand or thereabouts. Let's have a wee look at some other ones. High Street, Kirkcaldy, no being a fan. Disney look great from the outside, above a shop.
Yeah, that's the Harbour Apartments, they call them, I think. It used to be a quarter.
And look, things to watch out for: EPCE. You're going to have a problem with that because it's not going to be. It's not going to be one that you're going to have problems with the energy. I mean, it's got a fantastic view because of where it is, but your EPC could be a major issue with this. So again, sometimes the cheapest isn't the most attractive one to go for.
You're going to have to do the whole lot, insulating the floors and stuff like that, and walls.
What's your thoughts on Link Street in Kirkcaldy?
It's a bit rough and rowdy down there.
Yeah, I think I would agree. For 50 grand, 1-bedroom flat, I would probably avoid it. Incidentally, it's been on the market since October last year.
There's a big Romanian community down that neck of the woods.
Yeah.
And I've nothing against the Romanian people, obviously. But yeah.
I'm surprised that nobody's actually picked it up. I mean, saying it's immaculately presented in the actual video.
Well, quite often a lot of people hanging around outside, though. It doesn't give a very good impression as you drive past, and there's 15, 20 people hanging about outside the flats. It's not particularly great.
Okay. Yeah, because you've got the lounge there. See, you've got the lounge, and you've got the bedroom, you've got the kitchen. Yeah. So pretty standard layout, really.
Absolutely.
In terms of that. So you're talking about 50 grand for that. It's been in the market for a wee while. See if I can jump back.
You'll not get you'll save money as well, obviously, because you won't have the additional. What one is it you save again? Is it the additional
dwelling? Well, you would have the additional dwelling on a 50 grand one.
Aye, well, it's £50 under though, isn't it? Just.
No, but your mind, it's 40 grand additional dwelling supplement.
Aye, that's right. Sorry.
I see. It's the COVID.
COVID.
It's like I knew that. It's like Beaufort Crescent, 50 grand, buy to let, 1 bedroom. That's no bad, actually.
Is that the Wraith Estate?
I don't know, but sure. Beaufort. Open plan kitchen. But look. The bedroom's got a glass screen. See that?
That's a nice net.
These are more studios, the way that's done. And I think that's how the other one's done it, Julian.
Aye. It's a sliding partition glass, isn't it?
That's how they built them. They've built them to that classic scenario. See it?
Yeah.
So it's like somebody just nicked part of the lounge to be the bedroom, if that makes sense. But 50 grand price point. So there's another one there. So you're talking about 50 grand price point for that. I would be up a bit more. I would probably go up a bit more in here. Look, Kelly, we're jumping through. There's the non-mortgageable flats again at auction.
Yep. Look, all the price changes.
It's like all these. Well, there you go. Look at all the time. You're right.
And as I say, at some point they're going to get compulsory purchase, knocked down, and sold to Kingdom Housing, probably.
Yeah, retirement. Well, that's what I think is going to happen as well. I mean, it has happened with other ones, hasn't it? There was the ones that were run by the council. They were floored, and actually Kingdom Housing's taken over the land and build actually affordable accommodation on. I think it's just houses, isn't it?
Elgin Drive, I think, is one of the big ones. Forest Drive, and I think Durris Drive is the same, or it's heading that way.
Yeah.
So now, they're coming down because they've passed their useful life. And
places like Drysdale Gardens, they're not really rentals because they're restricted with the age. You've got to be a certain age to have that. Cowdenbeath, I don't know if I've been a big fan of Cowdenbeath going so far up there. Kirkcaldy, Regent's Beaufort, 1 bedroom again, just gone on since February. Initial entry at 55,000 at 1 bedroom. Sometimes
suffer with damp, those ones. Sometimes.
Do you think that's just because of the age of them?
It's the construction. Eventually, the sandstone outside weakens, and eventually that's water in, so it becomes sort of capillary action and porous.
You could see it doesn't look too bonny inside.
No.
Jeez, peeps. Aye, well, I think somebody got halfway through the painting and thought, I've had enough.
Gave up. It's not quite the colour I expected.
Aye, it's it could have been a lot better, eh?
You're right next to the chemist, and a hairdresser's and a dentist.
Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can get the floor plan. And vestibule, shower. So they've probably taken the shower a bit off the bedroom for the shower.
Aye, it looks like that.
That's typically what happens, because most of these WCs would have been out in the garden, wouldn't they?
That's right, aye. Put in a door at the other side and you'd have yourself an ensuite or a Jack and Jill.
Yeah. Now, that's an interesting one. Look, the kitchen's got a door out the back.
Aye.
See that? So it must be a downstairs. I would have been tempted actually to take away the front door and actually just put take the whole lot up and then put the shower. That's what I would have done. Whoever did that in the beginning should have taken away the front door and actually just made the shower apartment at there and actually had a bigger bedroom. And then just going in for the rear.
Would it need planning though? That's the thing.
Aye, but I think it was done years ago, so that's where that's ended up. So have we got anything decent so far?
I think before you start hitting decent things, I think there's sitting roundabouts. Well, you've got a 4 in a block there, right enough, Mark Inch.
Aye, but that's a way above what we're thinking now.
Aye.
Harcourt Road, 57,000, 1 bedroom. Again, that's that same type of property, isn't it?
It is, aye.
Drysdale again, Leaven Road, Orkney, Cornhill. See that? See, Thorntons are actually saying that's an ideal buy-to-let property below home report value, but to be honest, there's very few people that actually want to live in Newborough.
Yep. And that's what the property is coming up there.
Yeah, it's not a really good buy-to-let proposition.
The thing is, it's quite rural in its nature, so you're probably about the best part of 5 miles in either direction to get somewhere decent.
Yeah. I think. Do you think occupancy rate would suffer?
What's that? Sorry.
Do you think occupancy rate would suffer with that one?
Potentially. You might get a tenant that's a good long-term tenant, but all it takes is for a change in job or a change in location for the job.
I think they're going to wait for a while. I remember actually on the high street, I had a mint condition 4-bedroom upper apartment that actually sold for 65,000, and yet they're trying to sell a 2-bedroom apartment for 59. But you can see it's been reduced. It's been on since July 2020.
It's not actually. It's been on earlier than that. It was July 2019.
Wow. So it has. So they've actually. It was reduced. Okay. So it's been on all that time.
So it's been on for nearly 3 years.
Yeah. So there's somebody selling a portfolio. Now I know that landlord. I would imagine. I've got a funny feeling if it's the same landlord I'm thinking. It's like his stock's not in good condition at all. Tends to be a wee bit run down.
Yeah, I've no idea.
Norman Road and Dyser, Viceroy Street. Now we're kind of getting to better stuff now with Viceroy Street and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
And that's Leaven Gardens.
Leaven Gardens, Glenrothes. So that's Creaton, isn't it?
Stanton.
Oh, yeah, Stanton. I know where they are. Next
that's
to the
in the shopping centre.
The Co-op.
So 2 bedrooms at 63, Balfour Street 64, Queen Street, Kirtland Walk. Kirtland Walk method, 3-bedroom.
Inverkeithing was an interesting one, Jim, because it's a commuter route to Edinburgh.
Yeah. Now, I would have jumped on this straight away. However, I'll take you through it. So 3-bedroom, 65 grand, Kirtland Walk, 3-bedroom lower flat. Perfect for somebody that's needing on one floor without steps or stairs. So it could be them. So it's got a multitude of uses, but the biggest challenge here is that that'll cost a fortune to get that sorted. So I think instead of by the time you do 65 and you add on 4% for your ADS, you're up at 67, 60, 68. And then by the time you add in your legals, you're at 70. By the time you add in the refurb, you're coming up to another maybe about what? I'll take a quick look. Yeah, kitchen's not too much, and bathroom's not too much. Refurb's another 10 or 12, so you're up to about 82, maybe 90.
I think the very least.
Aye, no worth it. No worth it. That's to me. That's in terms of buy to let. That's no worth it at all. Douglas Crescent, Bethune Place, Salisbury, Crossgate. That's been sitting a while. You could maybe take a punt on that. And 2-bedroom flats in Cooper, you're getting for around about 500 to 550 in terms of rent every single month for these types of properties. That's what we're getting just now. So that actually might be a good proposition for someone.
If you look at it, Jim, when it was first listed, 2018.
Electric.
there's maybe a deal to be done there.
Electric heating, though.
Well, we're moving towards electric anyway, by the looks of things.
Higher bath. Do we see anything else? Do we see any other ones? See, come on, looking for here. I'm looking for a gas box on another house to see if you could actually get gas. You see anything?
I can't see a gas box.
Yeah. Just have a wee look and see if it's the cooker. See what the cooker is. Cooker's electric as well. It's possible you might not get gas in there, but you're right. I mean, 2018 it was listed at 70 grand, and it's only gone down to 5 grand since then. It can't. Well,
there's potentially a deal up there if you pick up cheap enough, it might be worth doing. But yeah, you have to make sure the numbers are right.
So let's jump on to the next one. So Vanessa actually said, what's additional dwelling new to this? Okay, Vanessa, additional dwelling supplement is if you buy a second home. So if you buy a second home in Scotland, in England as well, they have something called an additional dwelling supplement for a second home purchase. Now in England, it's 3% of the purchase price. In Scotland, it's 4% of the purchase price. So if you buy something at a second home for 100,000, you'll have to pay another £4,000 in additional tax on top of the purchase. If you buy it for 50,000, you have to pay another 2,000 in additional tax in Scotland on top of the purchase. And it's just the way it is. Now, in terms of my personal opinion, I don't think it's neither here nor there if you're going to keep the property for medium to long term. And the reason for that is because if property prices went up 16% last year, and you paid an extra 4% at the beginning of the year, you've still made a 12% differential. And then in the years to come, when property prices climb up, because we've just talked about in the last 20 years, property prices have gone up 170% on average.
Yeah.
That tells you straight away that 4% is going to be neither here nor there in the scope of things. You just have to, what I would say, you just have to suck it up in the beginning and just take that initial hit, if that makes sense, that value. Commercial road in Leiden, 2-bedroom upper flat. Okay, let's talk about this one.
That's more or less, is that opposite the primary school?
Yeah, that's just round the corner. So here's a classic 2-bedroom. There's a primary school there at the back. So good sized double bedroom. Now that, to be honest, that kitchen has been tiled, but it's been painted.
It's quite modern,
I noticed that style. I noticed that unit, and that's the old. What is that? The old oak sort of finish, but somebody's actually just painted it grey. Decent enough, eh?
That looks all right. What are the neighbours like?
No floor plan. Neighbours are fine. I know the place very well. The neighbours are fine. The whole block was actually owned by a landlord in his entirety. Right. He started to buy the whole lot of them up because he used to have a shop over the road. So he used to have the shop over the road, and he bought them all up at the time. And now he's away. I think they're actually selling them off a bit at a time. So it's been on since October. There's maybe a deal to be done. A 2-bedroom flat in Leiden like this would probably rent for around about 495. So let's take this as a classic example, 67,000. We'll jump onto our spreadsheet. And here, and I'll do my return on investment. I'll put zeros in. Give me a second. I'm going to put zeros in so nobody gets a fright. And we build it because I've got huge numbers in here. And everybody go, what? How much? And I'll switch that over just now. So I hope everybody's understanding where we have. Deborah says this has a bathroom on a floor with kitchen, not with bedrooms. Is this an issue for buy-to-let? This is a bathroom on floor with kitchen. No.
It's like a flat, though, is it not?
No. Well, if you have a bathroom on the same floor next to the kitchen, apparently as long as there's 2 doorways in between the kitchen and the bathroom, it'll not be the end of the world. But for a prime central location in Leiden, because it is actually central to everything in Leiden, round the corner from the swimming pool, round the corner from B&M, Starbucks, McDonald's, the retail park, the swimming pool, as I said, easy walking distance to the high street. It's basically right across the road. You've got Commercial Road, and also you once the train station goes in, it'll be easily walking distance out the train station as well. So yeah, convenient. Think of convenience. It's all right. Nobody bothers about that, having bedrooms and bathrooms on the same floor, to be honest. Let's jump in and we'll remove that, and I'll just share the screen for my spreadsheet, and we'll quickly go over some numbers. Geez, that's the time gone in already. Okay, see that okay?
Just about. There we go. That's not familiar.
Maybe just to bring that down a wee shade. Is that easier seen there? The whole thing?
We've actually got it all, aye.
Yeah. Okay, so let's look at the purchase price of that one again. I'll just have to 67,000. So 67,000. So 67.
I still think there's a deal to be done there, but yeah.
Well, I'm going to err on the side of caution. You see, that's why I'm doing that. 25% loan to value mortgage. Now, if you go for, well, let's leave that just now. We'll normally assume 3% for a limited company, or but we'll change that and revise that when we get it. It's about £1,000 to arrange the mortgage. You have rent of 495 in there. That's a pretty good return.
I'll take that.
Now, down there, the legals and minor improvements down the bottom right-hand corner here. So the legals are round about £1,000 to buy. Minor improvements, I usually put in another £1,000, and it's now this I think is an ex-rental anyway, so it should have compliance with the electricity, and it should have compliance with the smoke detectors and heat detector. I'm sure of that. Don't quote me on that, but I'm sure that is an ex-rental, so it should have compliance already. So that £1,000 you might not need to spend at all. So it might actually go up in return, but I usually just put 2,000 in just in case. Okay. Now I'm saying 495 in this situation, but let's quickly now at this point in time, 3% mortgage. You might get a fixed rate deal for 5 years. If you kept it 100% occupancy rate, which is 12 months here, and then that was your top line rent, that's your mortgage interest. Now, there's a dilemma. A lot of people actually go for capital repayment and mortgages, but I think when you're doing buy to let, you should do interest only, because interest only is deductible straight away. The capital element isn't if you pay down the loan, so you could end up running out of cash, but paying a tax bill out of the cash that you don't have because you've paid the loan off. Plus the fact if you're getting the bank's money for 3% and you can make a net return of 12.2%, then it would make sense actually just to borrow the bank's money and make money on the bank's money and not pay it down. Also, if it comes to if it ever did come to a credit crunch, what I found is because I did interest only mortgages on every single thing, when my property, some of my properties did go into negative equity, I still had the money because I didn't pay off the capital. Whereas I know some of the landlords that did pay down the capital, when they tried to get the money back out, they couldn't, because the interest, with the capital value wasn't enough anymore. So I would rather have the money in my bank accumulating aside and actually making money for me, rather than actually giving it back to the bank and paying off 3%. If that makes, hopefully, if that makes sense to everybody, just stick a 4 in the comments if that makes sense to you. We'll leave the 5 out there now. Somebody might put a 9. You never know it. So if that makes sense to you, that would work well. I want to jump on to the mortgage works. So I'm going to jump on the mortgage works because I want everybody to see the mortgage works and see what they're doing for rates. We'll quickly do the mortgage works here, and I'll just click on here. I'm going to do all this in advance. I'm just rather than actually go back and forward, accept and close. Full details calculator. How much can I borrow? Property loans. Oh, geez, it's all over the place. I'm used to seeing the mortgage works in a different way. I'm no used to seeing it as that wee portfolio thing. Buy to let. Let's look at buy to let rates, and I'll jump onto that. So select client type. Right. Let's see if I can share this screen next. So stop sharing that one, and I'll jump onto this one, and I'll show you the rates for the mortgage works right now. Thanks, guys. Lots of 4s coming through there. That's perfect. That tells me everybody's still on track. So I'm on the mortgage works now. Now the mortgage works, you can't go direct to them. You can only go through a broker apparently. So you could select client type buy to let. So I'm just going into the product finder, buy to let. There's one there for limited company buy to let, but we'll do buy to let to begin with. And we'll just click all the boxes. Lifetime trackers. Aye, right. I've got a few of them still, but it's all right. So 75% loan to value. The first one that comes up is here. Can you see that all right, James?
Yes, I can.
1.19% for 2 years. So we're going to look at 5-year fixed rate deals at 75% loan to value to see what they are, because I think that's your best bet, to be honest. 995 is usually the one where I think it works.
Yep.
At 5-year deals. So I'm looking for a 995 at 5 years.
There's one there.
Aye, there's one. There's one. Can you see one?
2.04.
2.04. That's 995 though.
Further down, aye, sorry.
I'm not seeing anything at 5 year. No. 5 year, 2.14. You're exactly right. It's still there anyway. See here.
Yep.
Just in this one. So basically, look at that. The current rate reverts back to 5.24.
Ouch.
But it's 2.14. So that's 2.14, 5-year fixed rate deal. So that's on your own, right? And then we do limited company. So we'll do that, and we'll see where the limited company goes with that. And we're doing limited company, same sort of thing. 5-year fixed rate deal, 75% loan to value, 3.09. So yep. 2.14, 3.09. Okay. That's getting a lot better, isn't it?
Aye.
I'm quite surprised about that.
They've now factored in rate increases and stuff, and to be fair, the rates haven't moved that much. Haven't moved dramatically anyway.
Yeah. So let's jump back to the share screen, and we'll jump back to there. Right. Here's a classic. Right. 3.09 for having a limited company. There your money is, and I'll type that in there, 2574, and 12% return. Okay. And then for having it, and I've got everything factored in right anyway, and then there you go, 2.14. Look at that. So 2.14 adds on an extra 500 quid. See that?
Yep.
So you're basically just under another 500 quid for doing a sole trader. But to be honest, I wouldn't do that anymore, would you?
Not now.
No, for that differential, because as again, if you're a high rate payer, this £1,000 could end up being another 20% on that. So over 5 years, you could end up paying effectively another £1,000 in tax over and above. So it doesn't make sense actually for the benefit. You would actually be better just to take the hit. Plus the fact is, I've got a funny feeling mortgage interest rate is going to disappear completely. But that still these numbers are pretty good, aren't they?
Yep, I'd say that's a reasonably good buy, to be fair.
I stupidly, I shouldn't have told anybody about this one.
No, particularly now, because obviously there is a sort of supply and demand imbalance there, and for it still be able to find deals on Rightmove, just as we have done in the last sort of 20 minutes, half an hour, it's still possible to get a reasonably good deal out there.
Yeah, guys, if you're following me still, give me a thumbs up or put a number 5 in the post or something like that. If you're still on track with what we're talking about here, if you've got any questions to ask about this spreadsheet and the numbers that we're doing here, more than happy to do that. A couple of things. We've only got about 4 or 5 minutes left, because so I'm going to talk about this. The reason that I go for these high margins, see that 12% net interest, net return, that's assuming that 30% of that is for a managing agent, and also for incidentals that you might have to have, like insurance, like minor repairs and stuff like that you put aside. Yep. So I've got half of that there for improvements and incidentals. I've got half of that there for a managing agent as well. So if you don't have improvements or repairs over the years, because you're not needing to do them, then that could probably end up being down at 20%, to be honest.
Absolutely.
So that could be a lot lower. Your return could be a lot higher, but equally it could go the other way as well, depending. So what I'm talking about here is the stress tests that I start to do now is I've got the number, I'm happy with the rent level. What happens if it drops to 8 months? Am I still okay? Well, I'm down at still. I've got 2,000. No, it needs to take down. That's no, shouldn't have been there. I've now got an instance where I've got £1,000 still coming through, and that's 8 months occupancy. Can I go down to 6 months? Yep. I can go down to 5 months. Yep. I can go down to 4 months. Okay. So 5 months, I could have that property empty 7 months of the year, and I'd still no need to worry. So occupancy rate is stress tested. I'm quite happy with that level. So what happens if rent? I mean, it might be the case that there's only an abundance of 1-bedroom flats needed. So, you know, a 1-bedroom typically is about 375. So if I had to rent it at 375, then where would that take me there? I've still got 1,500 there at 375. If my occupancy went down again to 10 months, I've still got £1,000. If it went down to 8 months, it's still £500. If it went down to 7 months, it's still 253. So 7 months occupancy at 375, I'm still breaking even and I'm still okay. So again, a good stress test on that. And then also if interest rates go up, if interest rates went up to 7%, now I'm on a 5-year fixed rate deal here, so I don't need to worry about the interest rates. But say after 5 years, interest rates went up and I had to bear the brunt. 7%, I'd still be okay. 8% are still, that would be the 8% would be the threshold. But I could afford interest rates to go from 3% to 8%, almost triple in interest rates, and I still would be breaking even and okay. Now, that's still taken into account. The overheads are £1,782. And then I'm saying to myself, well, wait a minute. If I always said, if worst comes to worst, I mean, I know we're using managing agents, but if it ever came to it, as long as your mortgage is covered, you're fine. That's covering the mortgage by £153 a month. Still.
The other thing as well, Jim, is because you have multiple properties, you know, a few poor performing properties will easily be taken care of by the better performing ones. You know,
if one goes down, you're fine, aren't you? And that's the classic. And that's what I love about it so much. So this is all about spreading risk. It's all about de-risking your situation. It's all about risk assessment, probability analysis to make sure that you're covered for occupancy rate, you're covered for a drop in rent, possibly. Rents will go up this year, by the way. So absolutely. I can't see that happening. And what will happen as well, by the way, rents in Fife have actually, in the last 10 years, have gone up 32%. It was one of the highest performing in the whole of Scotland in terms of that level. So rents have actually gone up again in Fife. They've been really top performing, and I think they'll continue to go up as well to realign with the rest of the country. I mean, 32% of £32% of £1,000 is, for example, 320 quid. But if you've got a higher rent from Glasgow, for example, and it's £2,000 for your rent, then that's 640 quid. So it's a lot more. And if it only went up £500 in Glasgow, then that's only 25%. But it's still £500 when it's only 320 where we are. So it's the lies, damn lies, and statistics, isn't it? The way you present something, it's one of these things. It's like, but it's been the lowest for ages.
If you present it as a monetary value, it says, "Oh, that's really, really good," and then if you do a percentage, you're like, "What is it performing?"
So that's it, guys. I think if you've followed me there and you understand that completely, please feel free to watch this over and over again and listen to the podcast. You'll pick up wee snippets that you never picked up before in this conversation, and that's us for this week. We'll see you next week for the next episode of the Wealth Creation Show. Bye-bye for now.
Thanks, guys.